This time, it's a promotion and relegation special as we look to right the wrongs of our rankings across the podcast season.
And it's no nay never, no nay never, no more, 'cause I'll stay a while drover forever and more. And it's no nay never, no nay never, no more, 'cause I'll stay a while drover forever and more.
Hello and welcome to By Far the Greatest Team, a podcast in which football fans attempt to decide once and for all who is the greatest football team of all time. Sometimes, like Ron Saunders guiding Aston Villa to the title using just 14 players, greatness is a given. Other times, like John Gregory's Villa sitting at the top of the league in 1999, greatness feels more like a hallucination. You're quite sure it really happened. My name's Graham Dunn, self-appointed arbiter of football greatness, whose main role is to find ways to crowbar Oxford United into stories of greatness where they don't belong. And joining me as ever is our very own Andy Townsend in the tactics truck. It's Jamie Rooney.
Andy Townsend is brilliant. I absolutely love Andy Townsend. You've just put me in the best mood possible with that reference. When ITV lost the Champions League, it was a dark day that we lost Andy Townsend and his incredible insights into football commentary.
Not for me, Clive. Not for me. I like Townsend too. I think he was good. I really enjoyed that. What I enjoyed most about that was that attempt, because that was at a stage whenever anyone took over the football, the coverage, they felt they had to try and improve or make a step change, and that was the whole ITV and Des Liner moving across. And I think they were quite influenced by recreating the Simon Hughes and the Analyst and what he'd done with the on the Channel 4 cricket a couple of years before. But I think cricket kind of lends itself to that game, whereas it just sort of looked like they hadn't let Andy Townsend out of the truck.
Yeah, the data revelations of football, where it all started. I think Andy Townsend was behind the curve on that one, bless him.
So here we are. This is a special and a slightly different, by far the greatest team football podcast this week. And we're about to go off for our summer holidays. And no sooner does the summer holidays begin than the pre-planning for the season begins. And we are going to be keeping going throughout the summer with a few small lo-fi pods. So we're going to be dipping in and keeping going. So there'll still be something in every week. Pre-season friendlies, I think was the name we settled on in the end.
It's a fantastic way to describe them. They really are going to be pre-season friendlies.
And I must say, we're absolutely delighted to have seen that the podcast has made it into the list of the best podcasts of the year so far, according to Guardian readers, which is absolutely fantastic. We must thank everyone who's been listening, feeding back. We've chuffed to bits with how it's gone, and we're having the time of our lives doing this, aren't we, Jamie?
We are, and we're so grateful for the way that people receive this podcast and what we put together. We get some amazing feedback. We are lucky enough to have a great set of listeners that have been able to share our podcast. And as you say, Graham, we've been featured on the Guardian website, which is, for you and I, probably a bit of a dream, I think. And it's probably only the right thing to do to give special thanks to Matt Walters, age 48, from High Wycombe, who indeed did share his views of why he enjoyed this particular podcast. And that's where we got flagged and how we got flagged in The Guardian, along with a lot of other people that shared their views. But Matt was the one that got sounded out. And we really appreciate that Matt has allowed us to live that dream, Graham.
It is. That's the place I'm always aspiring to get to. So that's super exciting. So we thought before we close down this season, we thought it would be quite nice to do a little review of where we've been and the rankings we've done, and perhaps to maybe review one or two of those ranking decisions, and perhaps come back with your bit of feedback. How many teams have we done so far in this season?
I think we're up to 28 in the 13 episodes that we've had so far. So we kind of, where we started, we tried to squeeze 3 teams at the beginning, as we know, and we learned fast. There's just far too much to talk about with these teams, so we streamlined it a bit. But we've got a good little league table of teams. I think it might be worthwhile before we get into the reviewing how we've ranked, just for one more time go through our rankings again, because I think it took us to about episode 7 before we actually really understood it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So right at the top, we have all-time greats, all-time greatness. That's followed by true greats. Then we had touch of greatness, which is our kind of middle ranking category. We then went down to edge of greatness. And what we thought was going to be our bottom of the heap category, blink of greats. But quite early on, we also realised we needed another one, which was the not great, but without them, we wouldn't be where we are category. Which in fact, we've got a couple of teams in there. And I think what kicked this off was probably Liège, wasn't it? And that's really the Bosman story, isn't it?
Yeah, episode number 1, we had Liège in with Liverpool and Sheffield FC, the very first and oldest football team still playing today. Yeah, and we kind of decided with Liège, it was an interesting story, but as a team, they hadn't really achieved too much other than being partly responsible for creating what's probably the biggest change in football history through not releasing Jean-Marc Bosman. And that became the kind of the centre of our conversation. You're right, Graham. We realised that they didn't fit any of the 5 categories. So right up front in episode 1, there we go, category number 6, and it's our bargain bucket where we can just chuck teams that don't fit the top 5 profiles.
I mean, they didn't even make it into Blink of Greats. They weren't even great enough to be that. But they, so yes, the 2 teams we have in there are, which I don't think I'm particularly inclined to move. There's Liège, and the other team was FC Start, which is the fantastic. It's the precursor to our glorious escape to victory, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing with that team. I mean, not only is it an incredible story, you've got these guys that have been rounded up as prisoners of war, put into concentration camps by the Nazis. Some of them were previously playing professional footballers. Others were doing other types of jobs. They become a bunch of bakers. They're making food for the Nazis, the occupiers, and they go on, form a team, and the team's pretty tasty, and they end up beating all before them. So their story in its own right is fantastic, but we did lean quite heavily on Escape to Victory as our favourite football film. And I think we couldn't help but just go down that rabbit one, really. We kind of like the idea of talking up John Colby of West Ham United and England, mixing it up with the great Pele.
Though, of course, they were. I think the other problem we had with that side was actually the stories of FC Start were a bit conflicted as to what was accurate or otherwise. So we are billing this as a relegation and promotion special because we're gonna run through these teams, and I think we're going to allow ourselves one each. I think that should be the maximum. We'll allow ourselves one each team that we can move up or down if we think there has been a wrong somewhere amongst this. And of course, it's highly possible there are some wrongs because for a large portion of it, ourselves and certainly our guests have no idea what the categories were. And I should mention, you can follow this should you be at home or casually watching. We do have the rankings table is available on the chewingthewildrover.com website, so you can see for yourself who you might move. But
before we get into the blinkered greats, I just want to go back to the bargain bucket, because I do have a bit of an issue with FC Start, as much as we kind of dismissed them and put them in the bargain bucket. Because you're right, the propaganda that surrounded the team was difficult to pick through what was real and what wasn't real. But the escape to victory thing, I keep coming back to it. I think I always will keep coming back to it. And one of the things I never got the chance to share on the episode was that one of the players who was in Escape to Victory was a guy called Hella Thoresen. He was the tall, blonde Norwegian, very good player, played his career in the Netherlands, never played in the Norwegian league, played most of his career in the Netherlands for FC20 and PSV Eindhoven. But what's amazing about this guy, and this is where the link is really tenuous to FC Start, and it's going to make it a real challenge if I do want to move these up. He was in the team when Norway beat England 2-1 in that famous game. And not only was
Maggie Thatcher,
indeed. Not only was he in that game. He was the captain of the side, and he scored the decisive winning goal. And the commentary, the full commentary, is fantastic. The Maggie Thatcher bit is absolutely the point of reference. This is what your boys took one hell of a beating. But the commentary, we'll get it out as a clip, and we'll definitely share it after this episode. But I'm just going to bore you, and I'm going to go for it because the commentator is so partisan. You're deep into added time, and the commentator is pleading the referee for the final whistle. He's absolutely crying, referee, blow the whistle. He then makes a reference that the referee has added time to added time to added time. And then he makes this brilliant reference because obviously he's so desperate to see his team beat this great England side. He then refers to the referee as saying he's close to receiving English citizenship. He's playing for so long. It's just, the whole thing is comedy. And then obviously we get, this is football history. The crowd are whistling. They want the game over. This game should have been over hours ago. The referee is adding on time. And then the whistle goes. And then, can you remember, Graham, the names that he references before he gets to Maggie Thatcher?
Oh, okay, yeah. There's someone. There's a random. They are random, aren't they? It's not Lord Mountbatten, is it? Is it
close?
Is it Beaverbrook? Is it Beaverbrook or something like that?
It is. It's the first one's Lord Nelson, Lord Beaverbrook. And then he switches and goes a bit political. Sir Winston Churchill, Sir Anthony Eden, and then he goes into Clement Attlee, and then it gets a real bizarre because he's listed off, these historical people and some major politicians, and then it's like Henry Cooper.
I remember Henry Cooper.
And then the final one before he gets to Maggie Thatcher is, because it's 1981, is Lady Diana.
Oh, of course.
And then it's the famous Maggie Thatcher. Your boys took one hell of a beating. He also goes on about, this is around the great boxing bars in Madison Square Garden. It's fantastic. We will dig the clip out. We will put it on social media. And honestly, it's worth watching for the 3 minutes because the commentator from Norway is first class.
Oh, it's genius! I love I love the opportunity to bring that up. It's still legacy, though, isn't it? It's still, without them, we wouldn't be where we are. It's not. It doesn't bring FC Start into. I don't think you can move them, but that is glorious.
I have added FC Start to my list of teams that I would consider to move. So that's the starting place.
In the Blinker Greats, I absolutely love the Zaire story, but I just think they are the definition of Blinker Greats, aren't they? You can't. I think it was Scott who said you can't let a team concede like 15 goals in a qualifying campaign.
We had Shane, it was Shane when we did Australia, and Shane, in his very, very blunt way, there's no way that this team could be anything other than Blinkered Greats. You can't concede 100 goals and be considered anything other.
I mean, that one is one of our most entertaining stories, I think, of the lot. I think once we get into Edge of Greatness, now we've got 6 teams in Edge of Greatness, which is our kind of category just below the mid-ground. I think there's 1 or 2 here that maybe, there's one in particular I think that probably stands out. The 6 we've got in our Algeria, the 1982 team. That's the team that was cruelly robbed by the Austrian-Germany ball draw. We have Australia 2006, which was Tim Cahill's and that glorious, their first real World Cup winning side. We have Millonarios, who maybe are a bit unlucky, the Colombian rebel team of 52-53. Queen's Park, the almost only Scottish team to win the FA Cup from 1883 to 85. We have Spurs, the glorious David Pleat, which is probably the most entertaining side, Spurs side I've ever seen, and Clive Allen's 49 goals. But we also have Hamburg. Guessing Kevin Keegan's Hamburg, 77-88, European Cup winners, and their first 2 Bundesligas, I think. Edge of Greatness for Hamburg, perhaps a bit harsh.
Yeah, they're also managed by the not massively well-known Branko Sabec, who deserves his place in history as one of the greatest football coaches of all time. He had some pretty serious problems with the bottle, which ultimately cost him his life. But he had some major success, and Branko Savic was the first coach to win the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. And now Bayern Munich, I think, have around about 38, 39, I don't know, a crazy amount of Bundesliga titles, and we just assume they win it all the time. They literally do win it all the time. They've won it for the last 11 years in a row. he was the man that got them started, and he was an absolute genius. I mean, a hard-nosed coach, drilled the players. But yeah, you're right, Graham. I think at the time, Hamburg as edge of greatness when they've won a Bundesliga, they've won a European Cup, and they also have legacy. I mean, hopefully we'll go on and talk about Hamburg 81 through to 83, which is a slightly different set of players, definitely a different manager because Zabic had gone. So they had that legacy. So I think you're right to call it out.
I think the other thing with that, which we has only occurred to me afterwards, that we talked about Kevin Keegan's difficult first season there. And of course, he was probably still recovering from that falling off the bike on Superstars the previous year, 1976. So, we underplay that. It's like somehow you can't imagine in the current era. I don't think Pep would let Ireland cycle around in Superstars anymore, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah.
Or release a pop single.
Yeah. So I think that achievement of that Hamburg side, we probably undercooked a little bit. I have a lot of fondness, and we've had a lot of fondness from listeners as well, to that David Pleat Tottenham side, which was extraordinary. Now, that might just reflect the people we know. I don't know. We seem to know a disproportionate number of Spurs fans, but that definitely, I think they'd be the other side that, for aesthetics alone, I mean, I know we put them where we did because they didn't win anything. I'm indebted to Jamie Buckridge, one of our listeners, who pointed him in the direction of Mitchell Thomas scoring 2 goals against Man United that season, including a Mitchell Thomas overhead kick. And he was denied a hat-trick by hitting the post. It's an extraordinary moment. And that just added another layer to it. I'd also forgotten the shock of when Chris Waddle went to Marseille for like $4.5 million. That was like absolutely unheard of. And at a time when I think when Chris Waddle was in his prime, I didn't really fully appreciate his genius. Just looked like a wayward winger who failed, turned up every now and then. But Marseille certainly saw something. $4.5 million for him is a lot of money at the time.
Yeah, he was a special player, and we shouldn't forget it was that period in the late 80s where if you wanted European football, you had to go onto the continent to find it because England were serving a suspension at that particular moment, and that's why we saw a lot of players depart. We had Mario on for Tottenham, 86, 87. Mario's a season ticket holder, and I don't think he thought of this Spurs team any greater than the edge of greatness. I think he even said that even though he hates the term, they are incredibly Spursy. And maybe that's where it's come from. However, I can't remember if we mentioned it at the time, there's an interesting fact, and I actually will be shoehorning Oxford United into the conversation on this particular episode. Because we talked about... It is, yeah, I've taken your thunder. So we talked about when Tottenham played Coventry City on Boxing Day in 1986. They had a bit of a mix-up with the kit. They had a bit of a mix-up with the kit in the FA Cup final as well. So they actually played in Coventry City's away kit. So you got the 2 Coventry City home and away kits playing. Well, it turns out this has happened quite often through the history of football. And I've learned that I think around in 98, Oxford United, who play in yellow, went to play Watford away, who play in yellow, but didn't take their away kit. And not only did they do that, I think it was 6 or 7 years later, they went to Barnet, who play in orange, and again, they hadn't taken their away kit, and the referee deemed that the clash was too great, and Oxford had to play in Barnet's away kit or Barnet's youth team kit. And I think they did this again a third time, potentially in the same season. I mean, I know you love to talk about Oxford United, and I just would love to know whether any of these things I've just said are actually true. I mean, it feels quite ridiculous that you would make that mistake more than once.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I remember us making that. I definitely remember the Watford one. I definitely remember us playing in their kit for that one. Barnet, I'm trying to remember. It does. I mean, it does seem an elementary. Because the one thing you know about Watford is they're in yellow. It's pretty obvious. It's not like they've flitted around in kits over the years. I'm trying to think if that wasn't the year we went down. It might be 88. Might have been the year I thought it was. Yeah, I suppose that was the year we went down. So maybe they'd just given up. Maybe they just.
Kitman's gone off. I've had enough
Well,
of this.
They're not one since January. It's all over.
No one ever thanks me for this. I'll let them sort it out.
So I'm trying to think out of the others in that group. I mean, it is difficult to make the case for Algeria, Australia. Queen's Park was a brilliant early story. Millionaires, I guess maybe they were a bit hard done by.
Yeah, they won a lot of league championships, and they also, at the same time, were playing exhibition matches against the teams from Europe, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and they were winning these football matches today. And this is just a few years before the European Cup would start in 1955, where Real Madrid will win the first 5. So I think their assembling of superstars definitely pitches them into a level of greatness that's probably beyond the edge of it, because they were winning league titles as well.
So when we go into the next bracket up, Touch of Greatness, I think to my eyes, there's a couple of teams who maybe are fortunate to have got in there, and a couple that look a bit hard done by. So in that, we've got the great New York Cosmos, 77-78, featuring Pele. We have Hereford United, the cup winner, the glorious cup winners. Iceland, 2016, the great Euro side. We have Man City, Aguero's Man City. We did a couple of weeks ago. So Aguero's Man City and Hereford, the similar teams, as well as Harry Redknapp's Portsmouth, the founding teams of them all, Sheffield FC, the Sunderland FA Cup winning side, the Wales team that got to the World Cup by mistake, 1958, and then West Auckland, who we did only last week. And any of those seeming a bit in the wrong place to you?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, I think at the time I argued that Hereford United were no greater than blinkered greatness. I think we got carried away with the romance of the FA Cup, the wonderful commentary from John Motson, and the incredible fashion sense of everyone wearing a parka, running onto the pitch to celebrate Ronnie Radford's amazing goal. I definitely think they should be in consideration, especially if you look at the bracket below that we just covered, which means these teams are worse. You've got Hamburg, Millonarios, and even Algeria in there. I think also New York Cosmos. I think, again, I want to talk about New York Cosmos, I think, all the time, to be honest, because I think it was just fantastic. And Phil was brilliant on that particular podcast when we covered them with Belgium. But again, I think, did we get a bit carried away with the razzmatazz, and did we put them in a bracket that maybe didn't warrant, because they had the star-studded players? Maybe we were a bit blinkered by the greatness of the players on the pitch than the quality of what they were. Other than that, I think I'm fairly comfortable with everyone else in there. Some really fun teams that we talked about. I think the Wales 58 is a great story, because when they did get to the World Cup finals, they did nearly go all the way and beat Pele's Brazil in the quarterfinals. But how they got to the World Cup finals in 58 is ridiculous. They didn't qualify by right, and only by an absolute quirk of fate were they able to find a path to get there.
A couple of people mentioned to me about Hereford, and obviously Hereford is one moment and one glorious bit of Ronnie Radford, and there is a bit of a question, and we deliberately try and shy away from. I'm very proud that we are a VAR-free zone podcast. It's so rare that large periods of a podcast aren't taken up by endless debate about the merits of VAR or otherwise. But there is a question as to Radford, when he wins the ball, he wins it with quite a taste, quite a meaty tackle. I mean, by 70 standards, it's absolutely fine, but it might, in this day and age, get ruled out. Now, just people have talked about goals and celebration. Just imagine Well, the Parkers are all, they're all across the pitch, and then unbeknown to them, Stockley Park's doing its thing. Wouldn't that would be horrific, wouldn't it? The great, arguably one of the greatest moments of football ever could have been overturned by a by a little playing back. Has he gone over the top with that tackle?
Yeah, that would spoil it. You're right, though. I mean, it is. He does do well, and he is on an absolute bog of a pitch. In order to kind of just get kind of stabilization to be able to get the backlift that he does, is quite incredible when it's on a cow's field.
So another of and there is sort of crossover. What I've enjoyed about this podcast has been quite a lot of crossover between teams or players or clubs. Some of the stories we talked about, and one of them obviously is Cosmos and the Indian team Mohan Bagan, who we'll come on to in a bit. So I mean, some great feedback on this, and I totally missed this, but the large part of our story was talking about the Barefoot Warriors and their amazing triumphs in 1919, I think it was.
1911.
But actually, 1911, even earlier. But Pele's penultimate game ever is a exhibition match played at Eden Gardens in Calcutta. When I read about this is in front of anywhere between 65,000, 70, 80, 90,000. I've seen various bits. So they play. He plays. He brings his Cosmos side over to Calcutta, play against Mohan Bagan, and apparently absolutely belts down with rain to the extent that they're not sure Pele will. They won't be allowed to play. He's so kind of precious in. At this stage, but he does play. He does play half an hour of the game, and Mohan began to get a very creditable 2-2 draw, and they're quite happy to have kept Pele quiet. I mean, he doesn't score, but he does help set up a goal for Carlos Alberto, which is a kind of another reminder of just what a fantastic side this Cosmos was. But it's great when those kind of worlds collide, and reading about what Pele coming and what Cosmos meant to Indian football and Mohan Bagan and at the time is just incredible, I have to say.
The response to Mohan Bagan was incredible. What we got through social media and obviously the amount of downloads in that particular part of the world was incredible. But yeah, and we learned something about the team that we didn't know before, which was brilliant. And Cosmos, I think we had it in our research, but they were a bit of a traveling band as well. And we focused on the NASL as where they applied and did their thing with Pele and co. But they were a team that would go off and travel around the world, play exhibition football matches, really selling the brand, not just of New York Cosmos, but also of the North American Soccer League, as it was trying to establish itself as a serious player. They were traveling to all four corners of the world playing these exhibition games.
Another theme or a common theme in this player, there's a player who was a strand across almost all our first few podcasts would crop up in somewhere or another. The three teams, there's a link, which is the great John Charles, who obviously played up front for Wales in the 1958 team, and who was the manager in the previous season. He'd been player manager at Hereford United. So John Charles has been there, and of course, the scorer of Cosmos' second goal in that draw with Mohan Bagan was Giorgio Chinaglia, or I still can't pronounce it. Who was Chinaglia? I'm getting back. It's much better than we did first time around, and he was essentially a kind of John Charles copy, wasn't he? On the one hand, like Welsh, Italian, played his football in Wales, played a similar style to John Charles in Italy before then becoming an absolute legend for Cosmos.
He really was the big lad up front and very effective. The amount of goals that Chinaglia scored is just absolutely breathtaking, just like John Charles applied himself in the North American Soccer League primarily. They had that spell in Lazio, as we spoke around the pod. But you're right, yeah, John Charles did crop up. And the Hereford thing was a real surprise because it's something that escaped me. I'd never realised that John Charles had even gone into football management. And to learn that he was there at Hereford, recruiting great goalkeepers such as David Icke was a bit of a surprise, yeah.
I'm desperate for us to do Tranmere Rovers, the late 70s, so we can get Ray Stubbs in there, but I might have to think about that a bit. In the true greats, so we have 5 who ended up in true greats. Mourinho's Inter, the treble winners. Mohan Began, who we just talked about, the extraordinary team there. We have River Plate from 41-47, who we did last week. And then there's a couple of teams, I guess, who neither of them won that much, but maybe it's just their appeal, the way they play, appeals to us on an international level. And that's Belgium's failed golden generation of 2016 to 21, and then the 1988 Netherlands side. And I mean, you keep coming back. It's the Tottenham argument again. Did they win enough?
Well, I mean, it's the only thing the Netherlands have ever won is the Euros at 88. They've lost in three World Cup finals. They've been to loads of semi-finals. They make the latter stages, but then they can be absolutely horrendous and not even qualify for major football tournaments. It's a strange relationship the Netherlands has with international football, because you feel that they are one of the top table teams, and rightly so for their contribution through history, especially when you look at players in the 1970s and the style of football for Johan Cruyff. But again, they've never really been able to dominate. And Belgium, well, they fit in a lower bracket. I mean, Belgium are a much smaller country, and we talked about this, and I think they've punched above their weight through the history of football. But this particular team, I thought it was special. I think I made a mistake with my ranking. I think I was going to put them in true greats originally, but I think on the evening I said all-time greats. And I think both you and Phil rightly put me in my place, because they haven't won anything, even though their statistics were quite incredible. I just want to go back to the Netherlands, though. One thing I forgot to mention, this doesn't happen very often. So when the Netherlands won Euro 1988, God, we go through
88.
decades, don't we? Yeah, in qualification, they played Cyprus. They won that game 8-0, and a guy called John Bosman scored, no relation to Mark Bosman, scored 5 goals. And I think through those 5 goals, he ended up being the top goal scorer of the qualification phase. But a projectile was thrown onto the pitch, and it landed in close proximity to the Cypriot goalkeeper, who may have been injured by the missile that was thrown down. There was a mini explosion, the keeper's gone down, and then the game is held up, and then it restarts, but then UEFA annul the game. And I forgot to mention this on the night. There's not many instances where a football match is annulled, especially when you've got a team that's won 8-0. And I can't help but think, as a guy who's played football in the forward positions and loves scoring goals, if you score 5 goals in a football match and you get the governing body tell you, well, they don't count, mate, you can't have them, I'm afraid. No, you can't put them on your Wikipedia page because it doesn't count, we've annulled that one. You're going to be a bit gutted, aren't you? Because they did win the rematch, but they didn't win it by 8 goals, and Bosman didn't score anywhere near the 5 goals. I think he chipped in with just the 1.
So you might find this difficult to believe, but here's my opportunity to bring it back to Oxford United and top goal scorers. So James Constable is the second highest scorer for Oxford. I'll dig out the figures. He scored a hat trick against Chester in a glorious winning on non-league days, and that game was Chester then went out of business. The goals were expunged, I think the phrase is. With those goals, he would be Oxford United's leading scorer, and without them, he's the second top scorer, which is harsh, isn't it?
I think it's really harsh.
I had forgotten I temporarily forgotten the Netherlands won that tournament in '88, and weirdly, I was watching. I saw it must be just recently the anniversary, might even be today, the anniversary of Van Basten's volley, which I swear he has gone a further 20 yards out towards the touchline and the byline. I remember it as being a fantastic volley, but that is an unbelievable volley, isn't it?
It's breathtaking. The angle is ridiculous, but aesthetically it's stunning as well, because the way he captures the ball in midair and the flight of the ball. I mean, it's like a bullet and a dip as well at the end. It's almost like if you were to try to put it in by drawing a straight line into the net. You couldn't perfect it anymore. It's absolutely stunning. It really is. But I don't know if you remember on the night, because I've read this, Van Basten had spoken about it, and maybe he was being modest. I mean, he was fairly, for such a high profile player, he was a fairly low profile individual. But he just said at the time, he was just so tired. He didn't have much energy to do anything other than just lever at it and hope for the best. I mean, he's probably being fairly modest because he had the technical brilliance to do exactly what he did there. And he did, those things quite often, especially when he was playing AC Milan. But I just thought it was a really humble account of one of the greatest goals you've ever seen. And it really is one of the greatest goals you would have seen in terms of a volley. It's just stunning to look at.
Oh, it's a thing of beauty. So yeah, on that list, I'm happy with everyone else. Belgium, I wonder if we got a bit carried away on that one. I wonder if they're a little fortunate to be on true greats. But don't know. And then we got our all-time greats.
That,
we go. Oh yeah.
I know we've talked about it, but I think what we should think about doing is probably doing a bit of a more detailed view on Mohan Bagan. I mean, I think they were coupled with Jamie Wilson about the great Harry Redknapp Portsmouth team that won the FA Cup in 2008. And then we kind of tagged Mohan Bagan on the end for about a 12, 15 minute slot because we were intrigued. We love the story. We think it's fascinating. But the response we got was incredible. So I think it's worthy that at some point in the season 2, we find a way not only to explore Mohan Bagan a little bit more and maybe repeat that team, which is something we don't really want to do, but I feel we need to get a better representation and maybe somebody in from who's got a bit of insight to talk about it. I think that would be a wonderful opportunity to learn more about this incredible football team and this feat of winning the IFA Shield in 1911.
Yeah, definitely so. They were denied a place in our top tier all-star, all-time greats, and I think I don't think there's too many complaints here. We had the unbelievable Dick Kerr ladies, genuinely pioneering, groundbreaking women's football. It's so good. They banned women's football for 50 years. After that, the FA, that sort of tells its own story. The Brazil 1970 World Cup winning side, which he managed to do in about 25 minutes. I think could have given hours and hours.
We probably didn't spend enough time on that team, but c'est la vie. These things happen.
And then we had the two Merseyside sides, very different, but the Everton and Liverpool, Everton 84-85, the Howard Kendall's first championship winning side, and then that Liverpool side with I just remember them playing unbelievable football. The Beardsley, Barnes and Aldridge and Ray Howson, extraordinary side. And I'm going to say probably Nottingham Forest, the 77-78 winners. I got pointed out to me several times. I think I call them Nottingham Forest as much as Notts Forest, but it has been pointed out to me that Notts Forest is not acceptable. That it is Nottingham Forest.
Yes, or not.
Yeah. I think what's definitely true about that team, that was very early. That was one of the first pods that we did, and we probably, I think, because we were sort of trying to avoid going down to a stereotypical path, but we probably undercooked Brian Clough's contribution to that, although he kind of underpins everything. That was a legendary team, and I think there's been a lot of love for that Nottingham Forest side ever since. And if you had to put one of those 5 right at the top, if you could only if there was only room for one in the all-time greats,
so we're creating
out of those
now.
Yeah, season champion. I don't know. It would have for me. I think. I mean that. I love Howard Kendall's Everton, and I love that Liverpool side. But I think for me, it's between Forest. I'd be pitting Forest against Brazil 1970 for the top spot.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I can definitely rule one of them out immediately, without having any worries, which leaves me with both Nottingham Forest and Brazil. I I really like you, Graham. I absolutely loved the Everton team. At the time, I was a youngster watching them, 84, 85, but they were just breathtaking. And I think they came along at a time where, as a Manchester United fan who, was seeing the odd cup triumph every once in a while, very fleetingly, it was just a breath of fresh air to see another team come along and kind of upset the apple cart of Liverpool's domination and do it in such a stylish way, and a young team as well with fantastic players, really exciting players. I mean, Gail, talking Dick Kerr ladies was just, such a great story, an incredible achievement. And it's not just what they did on the pitch and their legacy, it's the amount of money they were raising off it. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I think I would probably go Brazil 1970 purely on football and achievement and what it means to see football in colour for the first time ever as well. Not that I was
Football in Technicolor.
Technicolor, yeah, I think we put it Technicolor, didn't
They
we?
played it in Technicolor in every sense.
Yeah, it is stunning. So, yeah, I mean, if we're creating a special category for the best team of all time based on the teams that we've looked at so far, I would go Brazil 1970, and I think I would probably be sharing the views of many others with that one.
Yeah, fortunately, we don't have to do that, but we have tasked ourselves with this special prize pick, the opportunity to move to promote, relegate one of these sides from a category. Now,
so Greg, can I just get some clarity on this? Are we promoting one each, and are we relegating one each, or are we just promoting one or relegating one? And
I think it's one pick. One pick. You can move one either up or down.
Right.
That is. So I've never. Well, I think I'm ready to.
Well, if you're ready,
I don't like to. Yeah.
I think you should go because I'm still stumbling through the list again.
I am going to do it because I do think, and I was the one who got them up there. I think I carried them up, but I just think when I look at these teams are great. Hereford has touched greatness. Hereford being better. That Hereford side, glorious though they are. I mean, they are my favourite story of all. But on a par with Aguero's Man City, behind. I mean, even David Pleat's Tottenham are behind them, and it's a great moment for Ronnie Radford. And I do think at the time, I did a bit exploit. I think Scott really meant a different category when he opted for True Greats, and I sort of jumped on it. So I think I would probably use my editor's pick to move Hereford down to edge of greatness. I think that is probably where they belong. It should be an opportunity to bring people up, but I just think that's probably right or wrong.
I'm still going to stick by, and I don't want to alienate people from Hereford disliking me too much, but it's a wonderful story. But I still think Edge of Greatness is one too many for it. Really is a blinking. I mean, we shouldn't forget they got promoted to the Football League through some kind of odd system. They didn't even win the league where they got promoted. It was the influence of their FA Cup run.
I mean, of course, there's nothing to stop your choice being to take them down again.
Oh, wow, that would be super cool. And I think I will have absolutely no friends in Hereford ever again if I were to do that. I think in the interest of balance, as you're taking Hereford down, I think I'm going to bring one up. And I think the one I'm going to bring up is Hamburg.
I think that feels a correct call. Hamburg, I think. Yeah, it was close. Actually, we've overturned two of Scott's. That's harsh. It's harsh, but I think we all had Hamburg in that. We had Hamburg in that sort of slightly underachieving category, and I'm not really sure why. So I think it does feel as though Hamburg's place is at the very least a touch of greatness. I think I can get behind you on that one as well. Belgium are saved for another day. I mean, when I'm going into it, I thought they were the ones going down, but they've survived it. But I think Hamburg going up is a very reasonable choice, Jamie. Are you happy with our business today?
Yeah, I think we've balanced out the list as well as we can under the rules that we kind of have employed and put upon ourselves and governed ourselves, rather than upsetting the list too much. So I think that makes sense. I think we've corrected a couple of wrongs that we made earlier in the season, and I'm very happy that Roberto Martinez's Belgium survived the last day drama of being relegated.
So, of course, if you're listening to this pod for the first time or just stumbling on it, you can hear all our far more detailed pods about these various sides. We talked about all 28. We talked about in this opening season of by far the greatest team football podcast. We have loads of details on our slightly complicated and sophisticated ranking system. You can find loads of details on the website, chewingthewildrover.com. And we're on social, so you can find us at By Far Greatest FC on Twitter, and myself at Said and Done, and Jamie, you're at Couch Pundito, and on other channels as well.
Yeah, we have an Insta following, so By Far the Greatest Team, and we're really catching up with the whole kind of social media thing, and we're just getting a Facebook page as well. So we really are becoming grown-ups.
So we're going to have that's it for our regular podcast during this season. We've got a small break. We will be back in time for the start of the EFL, I think it is, as they like to call it these days, the second tier and below, as I like to call it. So we'll be back then, but we are going to just be completely over the summer. So we are going to be doing some mini pods, some pre-season friendlies, where we're going to go through a few of those smaller teams just to keep things ticking over and keep ourselves in practice. In the meantime, we would absolutely love to hear from you if there are any teams that you think we should be doing, especially slightly random ones. The more random, the better. We enjoy those types of stories. You're obviously familiar with a lot of the top stories, but we would absolutely love to hear from you on any of those. So do get in touch at the contact details we have, and just pass on. And Jamie, I think you're going to say something.
Well, I was going to say as well, I mean, we're always encouraging and looking out for new guests as well. So if you do fancy coming on and joining us as a guest and you've got a team you want to talk about, please drop us a line and let us know the team and whether you're interested in coming along and sharing your thoughts on that team as well. We do have a kind of a schedule that we're mapping out for season 2. We think it's going to be quite exciting, but we are happy to change that if you guys want to come on and share your thoughts about a team that you feel strongly about. But that was it really, Graham. So that's kind of us wrapping up. How are you spending your summer?
I'm just getting in touch with a few of my former Leicester colleagues and heading to La Manga for a ride this weekend. We're just trying to get Dennis Wise into the WhatsApp group as we speak.
Yeah, he never likes to accept these things, does he?
What about yourself? What are you doing?
Well, just lots of heavy research, kind of investing for season 2. No, I'm going to take some downtime. We've got the tour starts on the weekend. I'm really looking forward to that. That will pretty much take up my time in July with a bit of the Ashes. And I think that will be me, really, as we go into the new football season in just 5 weeks' time.
5 weeks' time. So we will be back. We'll be back next week. You don't escape from us that quickly. We'll be back with our full regular podcast in 5 weeks' time. If you have enjoyed the podcast, please like us. Please subscribe to us. Please tell your friends if that doesn't sound too desperate. And we will see you again for the new season.